But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm your host, Paul Hope, and joining me today for this very special episode of the 49er Faithful UK Live is the one and only Lee Gowland.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing, mate? How are you doing? I've been really looking forward to this because Patrick Willis was one of my favourite all-time players, and it's taken a long time to get to this point where we can actually have this show. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, so for those people who have reached out and asked about the roster cut down, why are you talking about something else other than that? The Awesome Foursome will be back later in the week to record our thoughts. We wanted to let the dust settle. And if you listen to this man, like most people do, Lee Gowland did say a few months back that the Wednesday Live, we wanted to kind of have topics to discuss. And as you said, Lee, Patrick Willis, to give him his full title, the Hall of Famer, Patrick Willis, Mr. 378, one of the greatest to ever play for the San Francisco 49ers. We wanted to give him his props because I think we touched upon it, me, you and Gareth, a couple of weeks ago. But tonight is all about number 52. Isn't that right, mate?
It certainly is. And just to quickly touch on the roster cut down day, I imagine everybody was expecting me turning up wearing black today after Sammy Womack was cut. But no, I couldn't do that. I had to wear me 52, me white. I've actually got two Patrick Willis jerseys. So this one's like the game type of jersey where it's the iron-on numbers. But I also bought, I think this must have been about 2007, 2008. It was an actual on-field elite Reebok jersey for Patrick Willis. So this is like the incredibly expensive ones. It's the ones that sell for like $350 now. But it's just too warm. I can't wear it. The only time I can wear it is during the winter when it's cold outside, because I wouldn't have said it was particularly thick, but for some reason it's just so hot, so I couldn't wear that one. And I wouldn't care, that's my best one. Otherwise I'd have just been sat here sweating buckets. So I'm wearing this one, the Nike one that lets you breathe. But yeah, I decided to go for the white 52 rather than wear black and be somber because my boy's gone.
Yeah,
Good luck to him anyway. Good luck to him at the Colts. Hopefully he balls out.
I know, buddy. I mean, obviously, you're going to be forever connected. I mean, the jersey you've got on there was my second ever 49ers jersey. So I went with Kaepernick as my first love. And as we'll touch upon, Patrick Willis quickly became a favourite of mine. And I remember snagging that beauty you've got there. Sadly, no longer fits me, because obviously 10 years ago, I was a lot slimmer than what I am now. But yeah, I know.
It happens.
Jamie, who knows, buddy? If you keep watching the show for long enough, there may be some news, because that is the other topic for discussion. But the chat is on fire. We have Mr. Scrimshaw in the house whilst he remains in the UK. Good to see you, Paul. Colin is in the house as well. Now, a lot of people, Lee, will be confused because we've gone live a little bit later than what we usually do. And if you're like me, if you watch a lot of the other content creators, a big reason of why we moved our start time was Patrick Willis was on with Brad Graham earlier, and it was good to see Patrick talking to some of the content creators. So did you catch a bit of that earlier, buddy?
I did. I caught the majority of the broadcast, apart from maybe a couple of minutes, I think midway through to 2/3 of the way through when Patrick Willis was on, and my router decided it was going to reboot itself. So I missed the small portion, but I got the gist of it. And I must say that the card looked absolutely excellent. I mean, I'm not a card collector. I say I'm not a card collector. I mean, over in me cabinet behind us, which you can't see because it's just out of shot here, I do have quite a number of the trading cards. But the ones that I tend to go for are ones that have been signed, and I tend to try and get them when they're cheap. And to be honest, again, we said we weren't going to talk about roster cut down day, but looking at the signed merch in there, I took quite a hit. Quite a hit indeed. So I've got a couple of Danny Grays in there. I've got a couple of Elijah Mitchells. Obviously, he hasn't been cut, he's been put on IR, but the likelihood is he's played his last down for the 49ers. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones in there that are potentially defunct now.
I think you're looking at this the wrong way, because for me, they are part of your 49ers story, the part of your fandom.
They are.
Now,
They are.
you mentioned trading card. So for those people who may not have seen it, keep watching, because we have got a little bit of an exclusive to show you. So there is a trading card that Patrick Willis has helped create. The artist, Jordan Spector, reached out to us earlier in the week. So I have got the card, well, a picture of the card, Lee, to show the faithful. But,
Yeah.
Brett Sinclair, happy belated birthday. I get that out early doors, because if I don't, he'll hunt me down and he'll drive to Darlington, even though I live in Middlesbrough. But Brett, happy belated birthday, buddy. And Paul Scrimshaw, I haven't had a chance, but it's well documented that my pronunciation isn't as fantastic as Lee, Gareth, and Nadji. So there'll be good odds on me butchering lots of players' names between now and February. What do you reckon, Lee?
No, I'm going for an under. I'm going for an under of 2. Looking at the roster, I think there's potentially 1 or 2 that you might butcher. There's one in particular who was a big surprise, and like I said, we're not talking about the roster, but there's one in particular who was a big surprise that he made the roster, and I need to learn how to pronounce his name before I even attempt it. But I think it'd be good this season. I think they've been kind to you.
They have. So, Brett, yep, that's a present that I gave you for your hosting at the Candlestick Inn. So, Brett's been wearing 52.
Yeah,
A bit more clothing.
Police, but it's I before E before I, except I before E, except after C. That's it.
I'm going to say we like to say we practice on this
I just
show,
want
but
to pick on Brett, to be honest.
And Eric is feeling your pain. He too has a Womack jersey. Now, to be fair,
yeah, I've got 3, Eric. I've got 3.
We've done what we always do, and we've gone down a rabbit hole. But we'll bring it back. So, Lee, by the standards of many Hall of Famers, Patrick Willis' NFL career was pretty short. Lasted for just 8 seasons, 120 games across the regular and postseason. Willis was well documented, dealt with chronic toe injuries late in his career, and he walked away in 2014 at just 30 years of age, where observers felt he had a lot more to give. Now, the reason I've started there, I remember the press conference. I remember being at work, the notification flashing up on my phone, and me going on my lunch break, and Willis doing his press conference, and I got emotional. Yeah. And I think that's where the ties to the team become. I hadn't been a fan for very long. I didn't know a lot about American football. And I remember watching that press conference and just being absolutely floored. And I bet for you, that must have been 10 times over, because obviously your involvement with the team was a lot more than me at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I remember draft day. I remember when he was drafted, reading about his backstory, how he looked after his siblings from the age of 17 after he walked out on an abusive parental relationship. And reading that, it was a little bit like the Michael Oher story that they made the movie Blindside from. And he kind of, it took us in straight away from draft day onwards. And when it came time and I found out he'd retired, it actually took me 2 weeks before I could sit down and watch that retirement interview, the retirement press conference, because I was absolutely gutted. I couldn't believe it. I kept on thinking, no, there's something not right here. It can't be true. And like you said, I mean, he only played the 8 seasons, but in those 8 seasons, he was absolutely stellar in each one of those seasons. The last season he played was the one where he missed most of the games, and that's what made his mind up. Obviously, he had that injury that had been lingering for 2-3 seasons. It wasn't getting any better. He had the surgery, and I don't know if you watched the actual speech he gave at his enshrinement, he actually talked about it. He said he can remember that very final play where he told himself, I've done everything that I wanted to do. That's it. I've made a success of it. No need to put your body through this anymore. And it was interesting because he spent the whole enshrinement actually talking more about the people who impacted his life around him, rather than talking about individual players. And again, he actually mentioned that specifically. He said that's what he did on purpose, because you've all seen him play. He wanted to bring the human side across there. And doing me research, I mean, I already knew most of his stats, but I hadn't realised when he was named All-Pro second team, he'd only missed out on a 6th All-Pro first team by 1 vote. Otherwise, it'd have been 6 times All-Pro first team. And he only played for 8 seasons. That's how good he was. He absolutely dominated from the day he came in. And I think you could see that. Even as a rookie, he had this presence. He had this aura about him. Not only on the field, but also off the field. When you see him, you know, they talk about being a dog now. That's what they say. You want a leader in there. And him, for such a young man coming into that team, especially with I think Michael Singletary came a couple of years later as the coach, linebacker coach before though, to take on that team and take on that leadership role straight away. Everybody listened to him, and he did. He had this aura, this presence about him, where whenever he spoke, everybody listened. And we're going back to like the mid-noughties. So 2007, it was his first season. This is when linebackers were built to stop the run all the time, where it's slightly different now. You get a slimmer, more athletic linebacker. They're not really built like Patrick was back in 2007. And he looked an absolute beast. I can only imagine what was going through the minds of some of these wide receivers, tight ends, or the running back who were trying to get past Patrick. Because for such a big guy, he had the sideline to sideline speed that Fred Warner did, and he could hit like a bus. He could hit like a tank, and that's kind of what I liked. I mean, when I got into NFL, immediately, obviously, I started watching Joe Montana because he was the marquee position, scoring all the points. But it didn't take as long to move my favourite to Ronnie Lott. And the reason I like Ronnie Lott is because of the way he played. Joe Montana would make sure that the 49ers had enough points to win the game. Ronnie Lott would make sure nobody's going to get more points than what we've got. And I think I've got history of always preferring defensive players. Although if you have a look at my jersey collection at the moment, there is quite a few offensive players in there. But I mean, I've got a couple of Bowmans, I've got a couple of Willis jerseys. My Ronnie Lott jersey was worn so much it just disintegrated. I mean, I had that in the early 90s. I think it maybe made it up to 97, 98 before it fell off my back. And I may have been a little bit too big to wear it then as well. But then, yeah, I've got Sammy Womack. I've got a couple of Sammy Womack. I got Yvonne Kinlaw. Granted, it was a Chinese rip-off, like, but I bought a Yvonne Kinlaw jersey. But yeah, so I tended to like that type of player. And as soon as I started watching Patrick play in that 2007 season, it reminded us of the intensity that Ronnie Lott played with. He like I said, I've said it twice already, he just had this presence on the field. He would get, it seemed like what Fred Warner is now. Every time there was a tackle, the name Willis popped up. Just like today, every time there's a tackle on defense, it's Warner's name you hear all the time. And that's the type of player he was for me. He was all encompassing for that defense. And again, you just look at some of his stats. 5-time All-Pro first team, 1-time All-Pro second team, 7 Pro Bowls. 7 Pro Bowls in 8 seasons. And his last season was the one where he didn't get the Pro Bowl. And that's because he only played 6 games. And then he decided to call it a day, go and have surgery. And then he retired back in the March the 15th, I think it was.
Yeah,
but he was a 2-time solo tackles leader, 2-time combined tackles leader. He had two touchdowns. Now, interestingly, that first touchdown he had was in his second season. It was an 86-yard return against the Seahawks. And if you watch it, it wasn't the easiest of returns either, because he had to make a few cuts to get away from Seahawks players. And I remember looking at that thinking, you know what? I bet you would have made a good running back. So I did a little bit digging. In high school, one season, he got honours for playing both running back and linebacker in the same season. And one of the people he looked up to was Walter Payton. Walter Payton was his role model. So you can see that kind of influence there in that that interception return that he had against the Seahawks. And it's a really good one to watch as well. It is a good one to watch, not just because it's against the Seahawks, but because of the skill involved for such a big linebacker to make the type of cuts and changes of direction that he did to actually get in there and get the touchdown. Now, I'll caveat that. At the time, the Seahawks were diabolical. They were absolute garbage. But that shouldn't take away from the athleticism he had to show to get that. But that was great. And then, I mean, the second one that he had, so he only had the two, but the second one was against the Rams, and you know how much that was going to please me. So, yeah, against two divisional rivals, I can't be happier with that, can I?
Well, I texted you this morning, didn't I, Lee? Like, to cut in there, those two you mentioned that were on my notepad. This morning, travelling to work, I had a half an hour train journey, and knowing what we were talking about tonight, I was like, YouTube, Patrick Willis highlights. And like you said, I'm celebrating the touchdown against the Seahawks as if he's just scored it today. I'm celebrating the touchdown against the Rams. And you said it quite cleverly there. He was that dominant sideline to sideline. You know, he was sacking the quarterback. He was stopping the run everywhere on the field. And you go and you watch YouTube and you see the likes of Ray Lewis gushing about him. And you go back to the origins of Patrick Willis's story. You said there in the 6th grade, he talked about that in his enshrinement speech where he manifested going to the NFL. He gets to the 49ers and he mentions like the Walter Paytons, he mentions the Jerry Rices, and he mentions that work ethic. And you're right, I kind of tuned in to the Hall of Fame enshrinement, and it was good to get to know the man behind number 52. And obviously he's a family man. He was very proud to have his sister involved in obviously announcing him. He was at his sister's house when they knocked on the door. And you just go and look at his story and his origin and where he's come from. And he just defines that 49er. You said it there, 7 out of 8 years in the Pro Bowl. He's the first player in franchise history to be selected to the Pro Bowl in each of his first 7 seasons. And there was a lot of talk about, should he have gone in first ballot? Yes, we're biased on this show. Yeah. He should have gone in first ballot because of that impact that he had on the game. Like you said, we don't have Fred Warner today if you don't have Patrick Willis coming before it. But yeah, I must admit, I did chuckle when I saw the touchdown against the Seahawks. Not a fan of the Seahawks. So it couldn't have happened, as Jay Peplow said in the chat, to a nicer opponent.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing that struck us when I was watching the enshrinement ceremony, obviously, we met Joe Staley last year at the watch party, and the first thing you notice about Joe is how much he slimmed down from when he played. And that's what I thought when I looked at Patrick as well. It looked as though he was a lot slimmer than when he played. I mean, he was still muscular build about him, but he looked a lot slimmer. And I don't know how this happened, but I think he looks younger now than what he did 10 years ago. I was looking at him thinking, how does he do that? Other than like a little bit grey around the sides of his beard, he actually looked younger. And I think that's probably because he has slimmed down. I don't know if he dyes his hair or not. I'm not going to put any accusations out there. I used to do it myself. But he looked a lot younger. And he still looked as though, in fact, he looked as though he could play in today's game as a modern linebacker, the coverage linebacker like we've got with Fred Warner. And to be honest, I mean, I would love to know whether or not his toe has healed itself, because I think he can still play the game.
Well,
definitely.
Brett Sinclair reckoned it's the same with him. Much slimmer these days, but still muscular. You know, modest as well, Brett. Nice to see you've aged well with modesty there, buddy. But I think Willis, he talked about that work ethic, Lee. And since he's finished his playing career, he set up the Patrick Willis Community Fund. He's very active on social media. He engages well with the faithful. And I think that's another reason why he's a firm favourite. He took San Francisco into his heart. He still sees himself as a San Francisco 49ers fan. And like you said, you go and watch that game tape. We only had him for 8 years, which seems ridiculous when you look at the highlight reel, you look at how everybody is received. And we talked about the Brad Graham show earlier. Brad was lucky enough to bump into Patrick on Radio Row, the Super Bowl, literally hours after it had been confirmed that Willis was in the Hall of Fame. And like you said, he come across with that humility, that gratitude. He didn't take it for granted. And if you haven't seen his enshrinement speech, you do need to go and watch it, because for me, it was unbelievable. And I kind of just got the goosebumps. It was great to see the former teammates in Canton flying from all over. You know, Bowman, who was obviously working at the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, there was a couple of others. And for me, I always get nostalgically, because that's kind of my first team as the 49ers. Seeing them lot there, you know, 2011, 2012 when I came along. But for you, you were there for all of Patrick's career.
Yeah.
You're smirking. Is there something in the chat that I've missed?
No. I'm just thinking, because of what you mentioned about some of his former teammates being at the enshrinement, and obviously so was Jim Harbaugh. And I'm smiling because of what Harbaugh said to Joe Staley. I know Joe Staley knew who he was, but it kind of showed a little bit of a different side to Harbaugh, because you kind of think of Harbaugh as quite a disciplinarian. He was always very focused, very professional-like when he was on the sideline. It was very rare you kind of saw this, humorous side of Jim Harbaugh. But when he turned around to Joe Staley and kind of said, yeah, it's Harbaugh. It's Harbaugh, Joe. It got us thinking, there's got to be some other stories like that about Jim Harbaugh that the public never ever saw. I wonder what side of that the players actually saw, either in the locker room during games, probably not during games, but before games, after games, or during training. I bet there was some stories that can tell about how Jim Harbaugh actually is quite a funny guy. But yeah, it was good. It was good to see all his old teammates there. And again, I mean, you look at some of the guys that he's played with, some guys that would potentially get into the Hall of Fame still. And I mean, I'll give you two names there: Frank Gore and Joe Staley. I think Frank is a lock. I think he's a lock, and if I'm honest, I think he should be a first ballot. To get up to third on the Russian all-time list, and people say, well, that's because he played for so long, but that's because he was fit to play that long. And don't forget, he had like 10 years of 1,000-yard Russian, 13 years of 1,000 all scrimmage yards. He was a very good back who was very underrated. While Frank was with us, we only had the one good team was with Harbaugh during those 4 years, and then it kind of went pear-shaped after that, and before that it was kind of a bit of a dumpster fire as well. But he played with some good players. Justin Smith on the defensive line. I mean, the Cowboy, loved him as well. The Smith brothers, Alden Smith, what a sad waste of a talent that was, because he was looking to play at a Hall of Fame level as well. Those first few seasons with us, he had such a talent. He had so Drake Jackson kind of reminded me a little bit of Alden Smith, with the way he had this flexibility to bend round the offensive line, but we haven't seen that, unfortunately. I was kind of hoping, after I'd watched the highlights from USC, that was the type of player that we were going to get. It might still come off. He might be a slow burner, but yeah, on defense, he's played with some really good players. Let's go to the linebacking core that he played with. Obviously, for me, Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman, to me, they're the best pairing in the history of the NFL. And I know people saying Warner and Dre Greenlaw come close.
That's why I've just put Paul's chat up there.
That's perfect, Paul. That's perfect. I'm taking Bowman and Willis. Bowman and Willis.
Can you remember last year, Lee, when Steph Sanchez asked me to come on and talk linebackers, and I hit her with a would you rather have Bowman and Warner or Willis and Greenlaw? And she was like, that's just because obviously you had to split the pairing up, because I'm looking at Warner as Willis. And it's just a hypothetical. I know I said we weren't going to do a would you rather, but that's what it reminded me of when Paul dropped that there. I'm with you. As much as I love Fred, I'm going with Bowman and Willis if that's the choice that I've got right there in front of me.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm glad we're not doing it. Would you rather? That would be a killer, that would.
Yeah. Well, it stumped Steph, and to be fair, it was last year. And obviously, given the season that Greenlaw's had last year, I know he's coming off the injury. But whilst there's a pause, everybody, Paul Scrimshaw has named his dog after Patrick Willis. Now, what I want the chat to do, Lee, whilst me and you were chatting, is drop your Patrick Willis stories in the chat. We'll try and get to some of them. So your favourite moments, anecdotes like that. If you've got nothing, just drop a 52 in the chat, because we want to make tonight's show all about Patrick Willis. So whilst me and Lee are talking, this is your time to drop all that in the chat right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of my favourite Patrick Willis memories is actually more a Navarro Bowman memory. It's just I liked what happened. So it's the pick at the stick, obviously.
I knew you. As soon as you said it was to do with Bowman, I was like, I know where he's going with this.
It was the pick at the stick, and it's because obviously Patrick Willis came out of nowhere. So I don't know if you realised, but Patrick Willis's 40 time was 4.38. I mean, that's amazing for a guy his size. And obviously, Navarro Bowman's giving it legs. If you believe the commentator from KNBR, he ran 7 mile that night from intercepting the ball to get into the end zone. And Patrick Willis appeared out of nowhere to act as his wingman, protecting the back of him to make sure nobody got him. And just the joy from Patrick Willis when Navarro got into the end zone. That's the type of thing I like, because he's a really tough player. He's a really tough player. But then he shows this human side, this really like giddy, childlike human side. He was just so happy for Bowman to get that pick six. And obviously we all were. Again, I do get emotional when I'm watching the football at times. That game, because it was the last game at Candlestick. The Falcons were driving. They were inside the 20. I absolutely felt physically sick, because I was sat there, time was running. I think it was under 2 minutes left, because Bowman had muffed the onside kick, and I was just sat there thinking, I can't believe we're going to lose our last ever game at Candlestick, our last ever regular season game. And then all of a sudden, it was a miracle, the pick at the stick. And the commentary that went with it, it was perfect. It was almost like Jeff Hurst's fourth goal in the World Cup final in 1966. The commentary is just as famous as what the actual action was. And for me, listening to KNBR and listening to I can't remember which commentator it was, but he turned around after the touchdown and said he must have run for 7 miles. And that was great. And Patrick Willis was a big part of that.
Yeah, when I was preparing for tonight, I was thinking that moment. I remember leaping around the front room, trying to be quiet. Little one at the time was weeks old, and you think the emotion, like you said, it was the last regular season game. You talked about it with Brad Graham earlier, which I don't want to steal Brad's thunder, but it was just nice to see the joy on his face. It's the same as I was now, same as the chats. He was talking about how much it meant to him. And like you said, he didn't score that touchdown, but for a defensive player and the magnitude and what it meant. But the chat is coming through. So Brett has put there is Patrick Willis painting in the Candlestick Inn. Adam, who's joined us, has said Willis was his first jersey when he came back to the Niners and NFL in general in the mid-late noughties. He was playing rugby at college, and watching 52's highlights appealed to the rugby player in him. And we knew what you meant, Lou. We knew you meant the pick of the stick. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, and again, just what I was about to say there was some of the linebackers that Willis played with, some of the linebackers other than Bowman, Takeo Spikes. So I don't know if, I think Takeo might have been just before you started following the 49ers, Paul.
Yeah, I know who he is, though. Obviously, when I started to fall in love with the team, I went back and did my homework.
You're a Marvel fan, aren't you?
I am a Marvel fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you remember I'm going to call it the original X-Men, but the one with what you call him, Gandalf, Ian McKellen.
Yeah. So he was Magneto, wasn't he?
Magneto. Yeah. So Vinnie Jones played Juggernaut. Yeah. Can you remember the side of Juggernaut? Yeah. So that's who Takeo Spikes always reminded us of, because he had no neck. His neck was so large. It was the same like width as I said. It was just, you couldn't see a neck there. And he was a beast of a guy. And I remember one game, you know what, you might have been, I think it was 2013. For some reason, I've got 2013 in my head, because Willis came out with I think he had a broken hand, so he had a club.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, he looks like a beast of a guy anyway. So he had this massive club on his hand as well, and it looked awesome. I thought, you know what, you can do some damage with that.
Was that not the London game against the Jaguars when he had the club on his
It could
hand?
be, because I'm thinking it's
be wrong,
2013.
but yeah.
I'm thinking it's 2013. And Takeo Spikes walked out, and he's got a club on the opposite hand. So I can't remember which hand it was, but I think it might have been Willis's left hand, but Takeo Spikes' right hand. So the pair of them walking out these clubs, and just straight away you think, yeah, I'm going nowhere near those. If I was on the Jags offense, I'm going nowhere near those. But I mean, Takeo Spikes, he was a great linebacker. Somebody who was very underrated, as far as I'm concerned, I thought was underrated, was Ahmed Brooks.
Yeah.
To me, Brooks always played at a high level every time he came in. You would never look round and say, oh, we lost that game because of something that Brooks did. Quite a few times, you turned around and thought, you know what, we won that game because of something that Brooks did. A good example of where he should have won it for us, but we got kind of ripped off by the officials as normal, was a game against the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, the Saints
down in New Orleans. Yeah. And they're going for roughing the passer. And it was actually a perfectly executed tackle. And I think it's because as he was letting go, his arm brushed against the face mask. But it was a really soft call, and it should never have been called as roughing the passer. But yeah, I mean, you look at those. You look at those linebackers there. But yeah, I mean, we've been blessed with some really good defensive players over the years, and offensive players. I mean, I'm over the moon I'm not a Jets fan. I am, honestly, because we get to watch these players progress through the careers. Hopefully, some of them's going to get a ring very soon, within the next 12 months, I would hope. Because that's one of the things, as a fan, and it's strange to say this, but my biggest regret was the likes of Joe Staley, Frank Gore, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, not getting a ring. And to me, they truly deserved the ring. We were the better team in 2012. And we just didn't kind of get that rub of the green. Obviously, you had the kickoff return where there was a hold. That kind of thing that went against us. But I don't want to really go into that because we're just adding to our name of our nickname of being the Whiners.
Yeah.
So yeah, try and keep away from that. But
to be fair, you mentioned a good segue. So before I go down there, we're joined by David McNiner, good friend of the show. David. He's asked what's good. Now, you mentioned former teammates. Now, when I was preparing for today's show, Whitner was one of my favourite players from that era. And he talked about when he first joined the 49ers, and he talked about one of his early practices with Patrick Willis. And he said he underestimated the work ethic that Willis put in training. And Willis himself has said that that's what was drilled into him by Singletary. He said it in his Hall of Fame speech. He said, you know, my coach has introduced me, but he's a friend, he's a leader. He's a man that I wanted to follow into battle. And he became what we see in Fred Warner today, isn't it, Lee? Patrick Willis, he talked the talk and he walked the walk. And it was interesting, Whitner, who Dante Hittner is his nickname, yet he's coming out and saying, you think I can hit? Wow, Patrick Willis in training. You didn't want to go anywhere near him. And that was kind of the ethos. And as Niners fans, we've been spoilt by this linebacking core and by this culture and ethos that we've had. And, you know, a lot of my friends talk about, you know, the Packers have gone from Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love. We've linebackers, if you look at who we've had over the years. I mean, when we were putting this show together, and you were like, yes, Paul, Patrick Willis is up there as one of my favourite 49ers players. You know, that's praise in itself because you've seen a lot of amazing players play for this franchise.
Yeah, it truly is. And like I said, I mean, Ronnie Lott became my first real favourite 49er. And just, I like the way they hit. I do. I love watching them play. And we've had so many underrated players over the years. Patrick Willis was never underrated. Everybody knew exactly what he was getting. As soon as he walked on that field, he was special. The special one, as Jose would say. I really cherish every game I got to see him play because he never had a single bad game. He never had a single bad game.
In the chat, come on, Lee. I was holding you back. Feel free to abuse that man. Yes, Brett, I have friends who support other teams. It's just like saying, do you like to have a pint or five when you go and watch the football, Brett? You know. So while I've interrupted, Christian has put in there the last three Super Bowls. We can't finish the games. However, we will march back to New Orleans in February to win it all. That's what we like to say on this show, Christian.
Yeah, I truly believe that will happen as well. I do. I truly believe it will happen with or without Brandon Ayuk. It'll happen. I think we are going to get over that hill this year, that hump. And once we do, I think that bodes well for Shanahan, because I think the pressure will be off Shanahan just a little bit. He's still a young head coach. He's still learning. The best example would be Andy Reid, and I think a lot of ex-players and ex-coaches are all saying, "Well, look at Andy Reid, how long it took him, and now look at what he's doing." So I think we are set up. I think we set up for a long time. People talking about our window, saying, "Oh, our window is going to be gone for a long, long time." It's not. It's going to be gone for maybe 1 or 2 seasons, potentially. But the way we set up, I think we can be competitive year in, year out. Even if we're not getting to the Super Bowl, I think we're going to be in the playoffs every year, because I think we are that strong, and they've done the right thing in the way they've configured the contracts. So it's going to be interesting. We've got a lot of rookies that have come through, and again, we've suddenly gone off down a rabbit hole and talking about roster, but we've got a lot of rookies that are going to help us get there.
Well, Lee, hold that thought, buddy, before you disappear in the rabbit hole. So we have some awesome partners who support this show, and I think now we have reached the right time in the show to tell everybody a little bit about them. So Power Brand Systems empowers creators and businesses to build their brand, attract an audience, and grow through effective systems and software solutions. Sit back and hear what they have to say.
Ready to generate more leads from your website, Google, and your social channels without having to spend money on ads? Our platform provides you with an easy-to-use communication stream that sucks in free leads from your website, Google, Facebook, and Instagram, enabling you to reply and convert them into customers from your computer or from our mobile app. We'll even turn your inbound calls into text message conversations, so you'll never miss another lead again. Once you've converted a satisfied customer, you can shoot them a Google review request with a click of a button, which will explode your positive reviews and increase your position in search engines. The system will also pull new reviews from Google and Facebook right into your conversation stream, where you can read and reply. Jumpstart your business by getting started today.
So we do appreciate the support. Neil Graham is in the house, Lee. Now, before you play the soundbite, he's in Wales.
Yeah, I did see that. Have you been banished to Wales? Did you go there on purpose?
So Mr. Peplow is getting very excited by this. But as Eric has put there, touching upon what you were about to dive into, with Purdy, we might have a window for as long as he plays. We are known on this show for being a lot more upbeat, a lot more positive. As we said, we are going to dive into the roster a bit more tomorrow with Najee and Gareth. So the Awesome Foursome will be back. We will do a deep dive into the roster. But Lee, Patrick Willis, come on, let's not move away from the topic at hand. So you've mentioned... Yeah, go on, sorry, buddy.
No, go on. I've mentioned...
I was just going to say, you mentioned the pick at the stick. But what I wanted to know is, apart from that, I want you to give us another Willis kind of moment, memory, because I think pick at the stick is for everyone. But as your good friend, I'm kind of thinking, right, I want you to tell us another one, just so that you can share it with the good people.
So the memory I've got is another interception, but it didn't go for a touchdown this time. And again, believe it or not, it was against another divisional rival. And the reason I've got this, it's stuck in my mind, is when I remember watching it, I'm trying to think of what year it would have been. It was before Harbaugh. It was definitely before Harbaugh. I'm thinking it's Singletary.
So they've been in the snazzy Reebok.
2008, 2009.
Right.
I'm going to go with 2009. So he had an interception against the Cardinals, and when he intercepted it, the way he jumped up, it looked like the catch. He looked like Dwight York. Dwight York.
Dwight Clark, even. Not Dwight York. That's your Sunderland fan. See, I've got him all giddy, everyone. But I know the play you're talking about because it was on the highlight reel that I was watching today. So Dwight
All right.
Clark, everybody, not Dwight York.
Yeah, Dwight Clark. So you've seen it, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
And
jumps
again,
up.
that's right. So I'm going back to the fact that you've got this linebacker who's built like your traditional linebacker from the 90s, the noughties, the early noughties. He's got this great athleticism to make that jump and get this interception. And it did help that was against Kurt Warner as well. I mean, I like the whole Kurt Warner story. I like feel-good stories like that. The fact he did it with the Rams has kind of tainted it for us a little bit. I didn't particularly mind him when he was at the Cards, if I'm honest. When the Cardinals got beat by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl, I kind of wish that they'd have won it rather than the Pittsburgh Steelers, mainly because it was Big Ben playing for the Steelers. But yeah, that kind of sticks out in my memory as one of the moments that I'll always remember. And there's far too many hits to remember as well, because it was just hit after hit.
I'll put you on the spot there, buddy, because I've got the stats. 732 tackles, 20.5 sacks, 16 forced fumbles, 8 interceptions. And like you said when I was watching that highlight reel today, it's just interesting. You're right, against Kurt Warner, the Cardinals, jumping all over the place. Tracy likes to watch a good crime documentary. Managed to convince her to watch the McNair on Netflix and said it's not much about football. It was all about football and the greatest show on turf. So she wasn't too keen on that. So obviously when I was watching the Willis highlights today and I saw Warner for the Cardinals, I thought, oh yeah, actually that links in. Brett has jumped in the chat there, Lee. So I'm just giving you this ammunition, buddy, because I think you eased off on him. So if you want to kind of, channel that Patrick Willis aggression, now is a good time.
Yeah, we'll do that in 2-3 weeks' time when we're down in London.
London.
Yeah,
yes.
London, baby. And hopefully, I will get this long-awaited email from the 49ers today. So, I mean, I can probably give some information. Hopefully, I don't know if I've given this before or not, but obviously it's a free registration once the link comes through. The last email I had, which was probably about 6 hours ago now, said that it'll go on general sale at 3 o'clock tomorrow. So I wasn't quite expecting to get the link this late. I thought I might have had it a couple of hours ago. There's 2 different areas. You can do the free registration to go into the normal downstairs part of the bar. But there's also going to be like a VIP area, which is in a smaller part upstairs where it's going to be a bit quieter. But you have to pay for that one. So that one's £49. Which is an imaginative number to charge for the VIP area. And that is very limited numbers. I believe there is only 25 available. So I'm assuming the upstairs is quite small. I'm trying to have a look to see if there's anybody here that went to the Overflow pub who's in the actual, in the chat. I can't see anybody. I know Richard Armitage, he went there and he mentioned that the venue was much better than the original venue that we had. But I don't know about the upstairs because the upstairs sounds quite small. And I think the reason it's a lot smaller and there's only 25 tickets is because that's where Talk Sport are going to be located and Sky Sports. I think they're going to stick them upstairs. The upstairs in the new venue actually overlooks downstairs, so it's not a completely separate walled off room. It's more like a mezzanine type area. So you'll be able to look over the banister and see everybody downstairs. But yeah, there's only space for 25, and that's VIP tickets only.
Comment of the show: Niners meet, biggest ticket news this week. But I think, touching upon what you said there, Lee, some of the lessons learned, which you've been quite good with the Niners, as much as the Broadwood was great last year, the bit they sectioned off at the front for the VIP for Joni's wife, it was very cramped because you had Talk Sport in there. I know Sky Sports have announced that their team will be in Minnesota to show the coverage, so it's a good chance we might be the 6 o'clock game on Sky that week if they're flying their team out over there. And I think that was part of the lessons learned, a nice little breakout area, for want of a better word.
Yeah, so that's the feeling I got through the communications I've had, that because because the VIP area last year was downstairs and pretty much smack bang in the middle of where all of us were standing, it didn't particularly give the alumni's family, or Joe's family, the space that they kind of needed just to chill during the night. So I think that's why they've gone with this smaller room upstairs, which is where the alumni's family will be. The alumni will be both floors. There'll be floor walking, so you will get to meet the alumni whether or not you pay for this VIP ticket or not. And they will be downstairs several times during the night to meet everyone. I'm not quite sure what else the VIP ticket gets you. I think it might get you a drink. It'll get you a completely different line to go in to the actual venue. I think it's priority access, so the VIP guests go in first. But other than that, I'm not
Jay
entirely
Petlaw
sure what else
is
that would be.
fishing for information. So Jay, we're not telling you today.
No, it's actually going to be announced before then. I can give you
Just before.
where is the link to buy tickets? Good question, Michael. Good question. I'm still waiting for that email to be sent through. So the email that I had 6 hours ago was to say you will receive an email today with a link on. So I'm still waiting for that, and they are working in the background to get that. And like I said, I will post that link as soon as possible, because our group will have up until 3 o'clock tomorrow to buy tickets before it's made before it's announced to the general public.
So for people watching, Lee, I was going to say, for people watching, Lee will post it in the Facebook group. We won't be sharing it on Twitter. We will put it in the Discord group, or anybody who's not on Facebook, if you reach out to us. But this link isn't for you to share to the general public. What Lee's saying, Michael, is 3 p.m. tomorrow. The link will be probably released by NFL UK, the Niners. It'll be on there, but we get access to it first, isn't it, Lee? And we'll share it within our closed Facebook group.
Yeah, I believe the venue holds 500. That is my understanding. So I think upstairs, if it wasn't for the fact that cordoned off for the media for Talk Sport and Sky, I think upstairs would normally hold about 70 people. So I would imagine downstairs will hold 430, which is a bigger area than what we had last year.
I'm going to say it's a bigger area. We did have the Facebook group, so we have tried to get an idea of numbers, which you have fed back to the 49ers. Obviously, there isn't an international game on in London like there was last year, which I think added to that kind of confusion to get tickets. People were worrying about coming across from the Tottenham Stadium. I mean, obviously, this is a 49ers event, so non-Niners fans will be obviously welcome if they get a ticket, but it is going to be a Niners event like it was last year. So, Michael, once we got the link, buddy, we will let you know. And Lee, your phone might die down a little bit, because I'm sure you've been asked that question about 100 times a day.
So, Michael, I honestly hope I will get that link before then. So that's midnight over here. Like I said, I've been waiting for that link to come through. Let me just check again, because I did email just before we started the show.
Yeah. So while Lee's looking for that, everybody, I am going to show you the card that Lee talked about earlier. So Jordan Spector has designed this card with Patrick Willis, the Spector Willis Willpower Immortals trading card. It's what Brad Graham dropped exclusively on his show at 7:30 UK time earlier this evening. The card is available on the Spector website, which if you go to spectorsportsart.com, there's a limited number of these available. But Patrick himself, if you go on social media, you will probably recognize that I have shared this card. I have shared Patrick's reaction to the card. And what's good about the card, Lee, the Immortals trading card, there's a bit of history with Patrick behind that. And as you touched upon earlier in the show, his upbringing, where he's come from, where he's manifested. And to be honest, I'm like you. I'm a loose collector of cards. But when Jordan reached out and said, would you mind sharing this with the UK faithful, me and you were both in full agreement that looks amazing. And anything that we can do to help Patrick Willis, of course, we're going to do it.
Yeah, so I've got to say, I am very impressed with the quality of the artwork, the graphics on there. Have you got any idea how much that would cost for, like, is it a box you buy? Do you buy them
think
individually?
roughly, Jay Peplow messaged me earlier because I was in and out with the Brad Graham interview in the comments. I think it's about £50 to £60, but I don't know postage costs. I don't know. We aren't being paid to push this. To point out, Jordan just reached out and said that there's a couple of content creators that he would like to. The card's launched today. I think it's midnight UK time. But if you sign up at spectresportsart.com, you register an email and then they send you an email. But just reading up on Jordan's story, Lee, and reading up on where the card was designed, and you see Patrick's reaction to it. So this card isn't a secret, for want of a better word. Patrick Willis has retweeted this out. I've retweeted this out. But yeah, it's about £53 to £60 Jay's put there. Oh, sorry, 58 Jay's put there. Keeps us right.
Right, so that's £58 per card, yeah?
Per card. I think there's about 1,500 of them that have been made. There might be different colorways, different. All I know is what I've got on the screen there is what Jordan and Patrick have shared, and it's what Jordan asked if we would be kind enough to share with the UK faithful. So that is.
And I'm assuming today is the first day that this has officially been put on sale.
Yeah, so when Brad Graham tweeted out he had an Hall of Fame show coming up yesterday, I was dying to let the cat out of the bag because I had an idea this is what it was about. Obviously, Brad was the one who kind enough gave CBS Bay Area our details for us to jump on the show. So this was unveiled at like 7:30 UK time earlier today on Brad's show. And I think it officially drops at midnight UK time tonight. But that's all the details there. It's at spectresportsart.com. That's the card. Patrick has tweeted it out. Jordan Spectre, who is Spectre Art on Instagram and Twitter, has tweeted it out. And like you said, Lee, Tracy was like, oh, no, you're going to get something else to put in that cabinet behind you. And I was like, well, it'd be rude not to, really, wouldn't it? And I think you need cheering up after your boy Womack's gone.
Well, yeah. I mean, hang on. What? I was just looking at that. Good one. Right, 1,300. Right.
7 designs. So, obviously, I'm not the man with the technology.
I'm very tempted.
So this Google spread slide that I've shared, I created. Now, Mr. Gowland created it. It would be a lot better. Now, I wasn't sure whether I was allowed to share the video on here due to copyright. So that's why I've used the screen grabs of these are the pictures that were tweeted out, you see. So that is what I put together. And Brad showed a video of Patrick's reaction. But again, I wasn't sure whether we were allowed to do that. But I felt this was acceptable because this is on Twitter and Instagram.
It would be interesting to see that because I haven't seen that. So that would be good. I think I'll have a look at that as soon as we get off the live show tonight. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at those cards there. I am very tempted to part with some hard-earned cash because they do look impressive. You look at the Panini ones, and you can get some Panini ones that I quite like. But like I said, the only ones I've ever bought are ones that have had signatures on, and I've gotten them off eBay. And if I'm honest, the only reason I've bought them off eBay is because I thought it was a pretty good price.
Yeah.
So I've got this trick on eBay. I think everybody will have the same trick, you know. Just add it to your watch list and then forget about it for a couple of days. In fact, just 24 hours. And if you don't put a bid in or anything like that, the owner generally knocks 15-20% off straight away, off the price.
Yeah.
So if you get it on like buy now, then it can end up quite a bit cheaper. But again, as I said at the start of the show, some of the signatures I've got in there, there's a reason they're cheap. The likes of Danny Gray, Quantrez Knight. So yeah. I got one of his helmets last year. The main reason I got the helmet is it was actually cheaper to get the helmet with the signature than just to buy the helmet without a signature.
Yeah,
because the mini helmet only costs us £20, and it would normally cost £40 for a mini helmet. I thought, it's a bargain.
So what I want to
use some cleaner to take it off if I don't like the plate.
I mean, what I want to say, Lee, we do want to point out, we're not encouraging people to overspend, get into debt.
Yeah.
Jay's put there, they're an investment. None of my Niners pieces, as he's an investment, they're personal to me. I have certain meanings behind certain pieces. And like you, I keep an eye. I have a collection of cards, but I'm definitely not one of the stellar collectors that has, high-end signed cards. But it just goes to show, I think, the community that me and you, Gareth, Nadji, the rest of the admin team have put together, that people like Jordan are reaching out to us, seeing what we're doing on social media. And he just wanted us as Niners fans to share that card with Niners fans. And this is what me and you said all along. As soon as I saw the pictures of it and I saw Patrick Willis gushing about it, I was like, it's a no-brainer. I'd have probably talked about it anyway. But it's just nice that we've been given permission, because I think you have schooled me well. I always refer to you as the boss man, and I know you hate that, but obviously you were more experienced than me. And sometimes I think about, the sound bites, the music, the getting into trouble on YouTube, and I think we can't get into trouble if it's on social media. And Lee, Red Jet Shell is late. Patrick Willis has got to be one of her favourite ever players. And she's missed 55 minutes of me and you. But we will forgive, because Red Jet is a firm favourite of ours. And as she's put there, she's gone back to the beginning just to belt out the red and gold gathering of strangers. Now, what the eagle-eyed people will have noticed, I've done well, Lee, and I'm going to bring it back and put you on the spot. When we put together this show, me and you totally underestimated that people were going to put 2 and 2 together when it comes to the London Watch Party. And we're like, the chaps are doing a show, Patrick Willis.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring it back, because me and you keep saying to people, it's not Patrick Willis. It's not 52
I didn't
coming
say
across.
That. I didn't say that.
I've said that to people, because that's what I believe.
I said maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
But that's what winds people up, because you say that, and then people will message, come on, Paul, you can tell me. And then you're like, and I'm like, no, it's definitely not Patrick Willis. And then you're like, nod, nod, wink, wink.
So if anybody in the chat, if any of you have been messaging Paul to ask who the alumni is, Paul doesn't know. There's only one person who knows, and that's me. And the reason I don't want to tell Paul is not because I don't trust him. I trust him implicitly.
I'm going to say I do keep the secret.
If I tell him, I know if I tell him, he's not going to tell us all. But I want to see the surprise on his face when he finds out who it is, because I think it's good to have that kind of surprise.
You are good at that. I must admit, given your position as the president, sometimes you don't get. Well, I say that I was able to surprise you this week with the Willis card, for want of a better word. Even though you have access to the Twitter account and it came across there. I think you were at a wedding at the weekend when I first saw it, and I was like, should I message Lee? He's at a wedding with his wife. And then I was like, yeah, it's all right. Andrew will forgive me. And I put a nice message on a wall for a birthday, because we're doing birthday shout outs. Happy birthday, Andrea. I was leaving the best till last, I promise you.
So, you know what I mean? It's great that Shell's joined us now, because obviously we've been talking about Patrick Willis all through the show, his Hall of Fame career, the enshrinement, what he meant to me, what he meant to others. And as you've said, Shell is a huge fan of Patrick Willis. I believe Patrick Willis is her favourite all-time player. So, question for you, Shell. Take your time, put it in the chat. If you could only ask one question, if you can only ask Patrick Willis one question, what would that one question be?
To be fair, that's pretty good if most people want to do that, because even if we don't get them on the screen, we'll be able to screen grab them, and then maybe, who knows, maybe we could get Patrick to answer some of those questions.
Because it got me thinking when I was doing some of the research for tonight's show. What would it be that I would ask him? And it changed several times, because when I started thinking about his career, favourite game, favourite player, stuff like that. But then I watched the enshrinement, and he started talking about people other than himself, people other than what he did on the field or what he did in the organisation. And then it got me thinking, you know what? For me, I think the question I would most like to ask him is, you played with some really good players during your career. You've been honoured with the Hall of Fame enshrinement. Which of the players that you played with do you think will get into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, that is a great question, Lee.
because it's not a controversial question. I think it's a very good question. It obviously shows the respect that he has for the players that he played with. And I think that could be a good answer, because you can elaborate on that. And, well, why do you think this particular player? So I think that would probably be it. Actually, the very first question I would ask him is, how's the toe? Is the toe okay now? And how's your fishing going? Are you still fishing daily? Because he went through this phase where every single day on Instagram or Facebook, every post that went up there was another fish he'd caught. But I haven't seen those for ages. So has he given up fishing? And how's his toe?
So you asked Shell.
Quite boring, but
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point. Like you said, if you've watched his Hall of Fame speech, he didn't stand up there and talk for 20 minutes about his achievements. And like we were saying off air, you know, if he was to come on the show and we were doing an introduction for him, I was quite impressed where he was like himself was, I am Hall of Famer Patrick Willis, Mr. 378. So I know Brad did the whole razzmatazz, which I'm support. I would be too nervous, but Red Jet Shell put on there that she had so many, she'd draw a blank and fangirl. Eric has raised a good one there.
So that is a good one. That is a good one. Now, that was one I was going to ask as well, but in a slightly different way to that. So if I had the opportunity, I would ask him if there was any player that he came up against on a regular basis, because obviously with him only playing 8 seasons, some teams he'd only playing once, others he'd playing time and time again. Is there any player that he came up against that he thought to himself, I can't believe I'm going up against this guy again? Whether it be a running back, a wide receiver, a tight end, offensive lineman, or a quarterback. There must be that one player, even though he was all pro throughout his career, he's a Hall of Famer, there's got to be that one player that he stood there and thought, I can't believe we're going up against this guy again. And I'd love to know who that is.
So Jay Peplow said he would ask him if he's got any plans on the 15th of September.
Are you after a date, Jay? Are you after a date?
I
heard you were sharing a room with Paul.
I'll love to do this, but Brett Sinclair, he has been stepping back on his fishing. God help us, Brett. Shaggy Beast would like to ask him which non-49ers player, past or present, would he have liked to have played with. So I do like that question there. And Red Jet Shell has put there that Willis is her hero, but the UK tugs at her heartstrings for all the obvious reasons, which is great to hear. And
you know what? I'm going to... Sorry, I was just going to say, that last question from Shaggy Beast, I'm going to answer that question.
Go on then.
I think the answer to that, if you ask Patrick, I think the answer would be Walter Payton.
Yeah, I think you're right, given the way.
Yeah. You know, it could be Mike Singletary as well, because he did single him out for special praise during the enshrinement ceremony as well. He made a point of saying when he was linebacker coach, not head coach, but when he was a linebacker coach, he did help hone his skills. He was always telling them to get your pads down, get your head down, make the tackle true, that sort of thing. So it could have been Singletary, but I do think it would be Walter Payton.
Yeah.
Because he actually said he was a role model. Yeah. Everything he did, not just on the field, but off the field.
I mean, Shell said she would ask if he could play longer, would he? Now, you mentioned there, that was another thing that I fell in love with Patrick Willis because of that kind of, that ethos that he had. And like you said, when you find out the man behind the number and you find out, as he said, you know, Walter Payton became a hero of his, I think he stumbled across an audio tape or a book in a library when he was in the 6th grade. And he said Walter Payton became his hero. Other people are not asking Patrick a question. They're asking you to say, come on, tell us who the alumni is so we can all get a shirt with their number on. Let's have a little
It's a number between 1 and 99.
Yeah. 49ers Simon has put he'd ask Patrick if he could sign his flag at the Jets game. So Simon will be out at Levi's for the first game, the home opener against the Jets. Dying to see all your photos, Simon. Make sure you tag me in the group. It's going to be great to see you out there. And
so, you know, I've got to say, I do see a lot of alumni at Levi's at the games. I can't ever remember seeing Patrick at Levi's. not entirely sure how often he does go to the games, but kind of there's the usual crowd. So you get the likes of John Taylor, Eric Wright, obviously Jerry Rice, Joe Montana shows up every now and again, Ronnie Lott, Jesse, Steve Young when he's working and when he's not working. But yeah, I can't ever remember seeing Patrick turn up.
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting one.
Michael has put there that he would need to go through old pictures of games to see if he had a good picture to print out for a signature. He has one, waiting for a chance of Vernon Davis to sign. We've got Shaggy Beast has put he would love to have seen Willis play with Ray Lewis. And Eric has come in with a question. He would change his question, Lee, and he would simply ask Patrick if he could join the 49er Faithful UK live on YouTube for an episode. Can you imagine if that was ever to happen, Lee?
Yeah, that would be unbelievable. The stuff of dreams.
Stuff of dreams. And Nathaniel has put there that he would ask if he would consider a career in coaching, which is a good question because, as you said, I think he's kind of stepped away from the game, but he's obviously, I think, been enshrined in the Hall of Fame has kind of reignited his love. And it'll be interesting to see because obviously Bowman has taken those first steps, going with Harbaugh with the Chargers. Be great to see Willis back coaching the likes of Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. That's for sure.
It would. You're right. So
now,
I'm
when we're live on
the
air,
49ers.
I was going to say, whenever you look down at your phone, I can see the whole chat's just going to be like, "Shut up, Paul. Lee's got an update."
Yeah, not yet. They haven't replied yet. Like I said, I was hoping to be in a position where I could stick that link on by now. It hasn't quite happened. So it may be first thing in the morning. So Michael, he flies at midnight tonight. I'm assuming you're over in the UK and you're flying over to California, or are you already in California and you're flying back to the UK? If that's the case, then you're probably just going to hit Heathrow sometime tomorrow morning about 11:30. So you should still have a few hours to get a ticket. Actually, Michael, message me privately. Tell me how many tickets you need. I can get that sorted for you. Because obviously you're going to be in the air. I don't want you to miss out. Let me know how many tickets you need. I will get that sorted for you.
Well,
you want VIP tickets, don't you?
I was going to say, with the caveat there, Lee, I was about to say, just to shoot yourself there. I mean, again, I can't believe I'm going to come to your rescue here. As you've mentioned, there was only 25 tickets. Once that link goes out, those tickets may sell out. They are £49 a piece. So obviously, if you're saying, "Oh, Michael, tell me," and he needs,
I can get you the free registration tickets or the free registration to book you, but not the VIP tickets.
So he's put there that he's flying from California to
the UK. Yeah.
And Red Jet Shell has put there she would kill to be on a live podcast with her hero. She said she would die. And Jay Peplow's jumped in with another question that he would ask, aside from what his plans were on the 15th of September. But is there a player you would consider giving your Hall of Fame place to that hasn't been inducted? I don't think I'd like to ask him that question, Jay, given he's just got his gold jacket. However, I can see your thought process behind it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because you tend to think it would have to be somebody that he's played with because he's invested in that relationship rather than a past player like, say, Roger Craig, because I think we're all agreed Roger Craig deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. The first running back to do a 1,000-yard rushing, 1,000-yard receiving, and he did it 3 times. I mean, he was that piece that allowed Bill Walsh to make the West Coast offense work. And he was the first one to do it, and he did it consistently. Yes, he doesn't have the numbers like the running backs do, but it's not always about the numbers. It's about being the first to do something, and he was the first to do it. I don't know if there's a lot more stock put in the fact that Bill Walsh actually created that rather than Roger Craig being able to execute it, but I think that's the perfect example. Outside of that, I don't know. Obviously, that would be a question for Patrick, not me. But looking back at ex-49er players, who do I think should be in the Hall of Fame? I think 2, but they're not yet eligible. Next year, I think Joe is eligible. Yeah, next year, because his last season was 2019, 2020. So yeah, next season, will he go in first ballot? You know, Joe Thomas went in first ballot. There's not that much difference between them. I think Joe did have the edge, I have to be honest, but I don't think there's that much difference between them. And I think if Joe's getting in first ballot, Joe Thomas that is, I think Joe Staley has a chance to do that. But I don't think it's been talked about. And the other one is Frank Gore. And for me, Frank Gore, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer, as I've said numerous times now.
100%. So my phone flashed up there, but it wasn't the news that we were hoping for, Lee. Well, as in, it's something different. So I'm like you. Yeah. I'm keeping my eye on my phone for hopefully something I'll be able to reveal. I'm doing Lee. So Michael has put there that he, to be fair, Michael, there's going to be a lot of people wanting these. So I think what Lee's trying to stress, and we'll try and temper, because obviously Lee's released the news. I think regardless of what area you're going to be in, it'll be like last year. Joe Staley was unbelievable last year. He freely moved around. The VIP section wasn't as enclosed, but I think Joe and his wife appreciated the admin team, like me, you, Gary Thorpe, Gareth. We kind of created a bit of a protective bubble. And I remember for myself when Joe and his wife were eating and people were coming over, asking him to sign stuff. I remember saying to a few people, look, just give him 10, 15 minutes. And he actually said, really appreciate that. But I think, like you said, the VIP won't just be upstairs. They're going to be downstairs. They're just doing it a little bit different this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be an unbelievable event. I mean, we're so excited for this. We're very lucky here in the UK that the 49ers throw an official watch party. The work you do behind the scenes doesn't go unnoticed, Lee. And like you said, as soon as you get that link and you can share the news, you've shared a lot more on the live than I thought you were going to share. I'm not going to lie.
All right. So I do have an email saying they are still working on it.
Right.
So that's just come in. That's all it is. Literally working on it.
So, sorry. So apparently,
I was going to ask about that. He did. That's an interesting comment to make because he didn't have an assistant there. It was just Joe and his wife.
Maybe me. Maybe it was me trying to take it away. I don't know. I felt very protective. I mean, obviously, I've gone teetotal these days, so I wasn't drinking at the event. And I don't know. It's not our event, but it is, if that makes sense. Like, I had a sense of pride going to London last year, and I remember Gary Thorpe and myself at the end of the night thanking everybody that came, shaking hands, photos with the flags. The footballer from Arsenal, Rob Holding, I had no idea who he was, and he was quite shocked that I had no idea. And I was like, mate, I don't do English football. If you're an NFL player, all day long I'd know who you were. But and as Jay's put there, it may have been his wife rather than the assistant. But Red Jet Shell, thanks for dropping in. She's got to shoot off.
Catch you later, Shell.
Yeah, we've changed the time a little bit tonight, haven't we, Lee? Which we were hoping was going to become apparent while we ramble on about our love for all things 52.
Yeah, but I don't think it will, if I'm honest.
I'm trying not... Should we tell the good people? Or should we give it 5 more minutes?
Yeah. I think you should tell them.
Right. Okie dokie. So, obviously, earlier in the show, I shared the Patrick Willis trading card. So, the creator of the card, Jordan Spector, reached out to us at the weekend and asked if we would kindly promote the card amongst our following. He also said that Patrick would be doing some interviews today. And would we like Patrick Willis to come on the show? Now, as you can imagine, when I got that text, I sent it straight to Lee Gowland, who was at a wedding. And we were like, of course, we would love Patrick Willis to come on the show. Tell us a time, tell us a place. So I noticed Brad Graham had changed the time of his show because he doesn't normally go live on a Wednesday at 11:20, 11:30. So obviously when Brad announced that Patrick was going on his show, which kind of, I had a sense of pride because when Jordan reached out to me, he did say, Lee, was there any other content creators? And I did give him a list of Brad, John Chapman, Crystal, some of the others that we work with. So it's nice to see that Brad got the exclusive. But about an hour before me and Lee went live tonight, we did receive an email to say that Patrick was busy, but he was hoping to jump on the show. So as you can tell, me and Lee have been trying to check our phones because Lee has the same access to me, but it is sadly looking unlikely, Lee, given that we're now at 11:15 in the UK.
Yeah, it is. So what's that? That's 1:45. Yeah, 1:45 in the afternoon over in California. So he has had interviews lined up all day. And they did say if they can try and get on, if they can jump on, they'd love to. But it doesn't look as though it's worked out.
No,
But it would have been good. I mean, we got a good few questions there that we could have asked. And it would have been perfect as well. But again, this was all a coincidence because we were always going to do a Patrick Willis Hall of Fame show. It just so happens that this fell into our laps at the perfect timing. Oh, it didn't, so to speak.
Yeah. But we touched upon it earlier. I mean, before I go down the rabbit hole, Jay Peplow, he's sure we don't all mind waiting another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. I mean, first thing I did was go to the boss and say, Tracy, Patrick Willis might be coming on our show. We need to change the times. It's the school holidays where we are. And she was obviously keen to allow me to live out this dream. And it would have been unbelievable to have Patrick on the show. I think for once, Lee, we might have been lost for words, me and you, which would have been a sight for sore eyes for the people watching.
Possibly. I mean, what you could do is just drop the link into the chat again, just in case they can't find the link. And then we can give it another 10 minutes. And then maybe go into some roster stuff, which we'll obviously cover off in the pod in greater detail yesterday. But I think...
So
so you do that.
Yeah, you keep talking to people.
So obviously, I mean, it was the roster cut down day yesterday. It didn't seem to come through as fast and thick as it normally does. We kind of got glut after glut. To me, the biggest surprise was only keeping 2 tight ends. Obviously, now we know that Mason Pliant's come back. He's on the practice squad. We've got a couple of players back that I was kind of gutted that we got rid of. Unfortunately, Sammy wasn't one of them. He's now a Colt. Who was the other one? Kingston,
you're not ripping that Band-Aid off straight away, are you?
What's that?
About Sammy Womack. I just came back and I was like, oh man. So
well, I've got to, and I've built myself up for this eventuality since before the Super Bowl. I think it was after the NFC Championship game when we did the review, and I turned around and said, they haven't even dressed Sammy. There's just something not right about that because he's fit. He's one of our better special team players, and he wasn't even dressed. And then he wasn't dressed in the Super Bowl as well. And I said, that's it. I can't see him getting through training camp in the summer and not getting cut. And I think it's obviously proven he's too good to get through waivers. I mean, I would love to see how he does at the Colts, see him get a fair crack at the whip. And I think going to a team like the Colts, who aren't as stacked as us, I think he's going to work out well for him. So good luck to him. Just shame he couldn't have done it in red and gold.
I did see, I think it was Brad that broke the news, and we try not to just retweet everything in our group, but obviously our roster cut down day. And that's another reason why, everyone, we're doing our pod tomorrow night, because I know when the news was breaking yesterday, some of the other content creators went live, but the 53-man roster's already changed from when it was first released. And obviously, I'm sure it'll possibly change again between now and us recording tomorrow.
So it will be, because so once you do your 53, the players have to be on the roster for at least 24 hours before you can put them on IR.
Right.
And obviously, this isn't season-ending IR. This is the IR you can bring back. So who was it that we kept on that was going to go on to IR?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Definitely.
But it made sense the way they did it. It did. It made sense. Yeah, so it is changing. It's going to change over the next couple of weeks, to be honest. If anybody comes up is released and John Lynch likes him, he's probably going to change it again. So it's going to be interesting to see who is on the 53 once we get to that Monday night game against the Jets.
So we will be ramping up into true 49 Faithful UK in-season mode. So
Yeah,
I've already been...
Well, we'll weekly shows.
Yeah, I was going to say...
the live show.
Well, that was another reason, Lee, why we wanted to kind of get the structure back. So like you said, when we changed the live at the start of this year, which just seemed 5 minutes ago, it's gone down well with the Faithful doing a topic. Because like you said, we've got the podcast, which people look forward to. So when I go on other shows and promote our channel, they always say, oh, what do you guys do? We do a preview game, which we obviously give our thoughts. And we then do a review. So the live is going to be on a Wednesday because it's going to be different. We're going to bring topics in. So in season, those topics will be related to the team, will be related to the games, but it'll be a different feel, won't it, Lee, to the pod. And as much as Gareth and Nadji want to jump on the live, sometimes as we've done tonight, it'll be me and Lee, could be me and Gareth, could be me and Nadji. Do you want to announce the guest for next week, or are we keeping that a little bit quiet? Because you reached out to me. So,
I can't see any reason why we can't, because he's already put it in his diary. So next week we're going to have a guy called Brian Davis on. Not the Brian Davis who's one of the admin in our group, but
who I thought you meant.
Brian Davis. But the American Brian Davis. So he is a contributor to Niners Radio. I first met Brian face to face back in 2015. Believe it or not, we'd already been friends for about 2 years on Facebook, purely because we were Niner fans. And the way I met him was quite surreal. So I'd been to the Turkey Bowl at Kezar. Again, so this is back end of November 2015. As soon as the Turkey Bowl had finished, both myself and David Ellicott went straight over to the Kezar pub, had a few pints in there while we were watching the early game, or watching the end of the early game, watching the start of the second game. And as we came out to get a taxi back down to downtown San Francisco, Brian Davis was walking down the street, and he just mentioned something to us. Beat the Cards tomorrow, I think it was, he said. And I said, are you all right, Brian? And I kind of took him back a bit because I knew his name. And he was like, how do you know my name? I said, oh, well, we're friends on Facebook, Brian. I recognise you straight away because he's a massive guy. He's tall. I think he's about 6'6". And Brian, he covers the Turkey Bowl every year at San Francisco. So he gets to see it every year. The last couple of seasons, I think his nephew has played in the Turkey Bowl. I can't remember. I think it's for the Balboa Buccaneers. So he's got quite a good handle on the whole history of the Turkey Bowl, and that's what the topic's going to be about, because this is something that both myself and David Ellicott wax lyrical about. If you're going to go to San Francisco over Thanksgiving, get yourself to Kezar and watch the Turkey Bowl, and that's basically the bowl game between the two best high school teams in San Francisco area. And it's generally a good day as long as the weather's fine. We've been there a couple of times where it's been a bit chilly, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Again, Brian also covers all of the 49ers game for Niners Radio as well, and he's quite a knowledgeable person. So looking forward to having Brian on and helping him expand his brand globally.
So Eric has put there, get both Brian Davis on, won't be confusing it all. And Nathaniel's jumped in the UK, Brian Davis will get confused. But no, it's a big part of what we're trying to do. So last week I jumped on good teams win, great teams cover. Paul Redman, Dallas Cowboys fan who joined us in Leeds for the Super Bowl. He's coming up to Newcastle for the Chiefs watch party. He had me on last week to talk about the Niners. Our good friends, Gary Thorpe, Alex Simpson and Matty Smith have broke away from Just Talk Sports, Lee, and they've set their own channel up, Sports Mag UK. So in the coming weeks, I'll get the three of them on a live because they're chaotic. They cause mayhem. This is their own words. And given the late Dan Harris, who gave a lot of us the opportunity to go on YouTube, they've obviously tipped a nod to Dan Harris's involvement. And I said to Gary Lee that we would give them a plug because Gary's an admin member. He's competing with us. And when you reached out, I think it was either yesterday or today, and said, can I get Brian Davis on? At first, I did think English Brian. Then I thought, no, hang on. And then you tweeted out and said that you're going on his show on Friday, I believe. Is that right, Lee?
Yeah, Friday. So I think it's probably going to be a season preview show, and just try and get a feel of how we are feeling over in the UK. I've been on Brian's show a few times now, and honestly, because he sends us WhatsApp messages, because he's got my phone number, rather than Facebook Messenger, I tend to forget about them all the time. So he actually messaged us, I think it was day 2 when I was on a 10-day cruise. So I said, sorry, Brian, I'm out at sea at the moment. As soon as I get back from my cruise, I'll give you a bell. Completely forgot all about it again. And then he just so happened to ring us yesterday. And he has rang us a couple of times this year, and I've missed it every time, because obviously Brian's like a little bit like Larry, not Larry, a little bit like Ted Talks Ball. He gets the time difference confused.
Yeah, don't
Sometimes he thinks he's 8 hours ahead and not behind us. So sometimes
will that be live then, like what we're doing now on Friday?
Yes.
Will it be live? Right.
Yeah.
So obviously share the link. We'll share everyone. Red Jet Shell. I'm not sure whether you missed our exclusive. The reason we're still live is we'd hoped Patrick Willis was going to be joining us live on the 49er Faithful UK tonight. Spectre Art, who he's working with the card, had reached out at the weekend, and Patrick has got a lot of interviews today, but there was a possibility he was going to join us on the 49er Faithful UK live. So it was a coincidence that we were doing the Patrick Willis show, the fact that his card was being released today. But we've hung on, Shell, because we were hoping you might come back and your hero might have been on the screen with myself and Lee Gowland. But given it's nearly 11 o'clock, I think we'll stretch it out to 11, Lee. We'll give it till 11 o'clock, and then
you know what'll happen? They'll try and connect 1 minute past 11.
I mean, to be fair, I said to Tracy off air, if we can get him just for 5 minutes, Patrick Willis, Hall of Famer, Mr. 378 on our show would be unreal. And we've tweeted the picture.
Yeah. I was going to say, what would be good, because we've still got 23 people who's watching here, if we could get an ex-player on to do an interview, who would you like to have on?
Yeah, that's a good question. All I was going to say was I tweeted the picture of Kittle with a flag. Could you imagine what we'd do if we had actual footage of Patrick Willis answering the UK faithful questions?
I'm going to caveat that question as well. I'm going to say no Hall of Famers, because I would think that would be incredibly difficult to get on. Because
I'm going to say
Patrick
straight
Willis,
away.
because Patrick Willis kind of fell into our lap somewhat. I think it would be easier to get one of the other former players on.
Jay Peplow, former. We don't need talk like that on this show, buddy. Honestly, Shell, only Lee and my good lady Tracy have known that we've been trying to get Patrick Willis on. I mean, I still can't believe when I got the message and I thought, is there a possibility? And then obviously known he was going live with Brad Graham, but I did send the link, like you said, Lee, 5 minutes ago, and they haven't opened it up. Before, when I was distracted, I saw that John Chapman had gone live, or I had a notification flash up in the background, and I thought, as Patrick jumped on with John, because John was on the list of content creators that I passed over to Spectre Art, because we like to show the love in the show, but then it's disappeared off my phone. So, Eric has put a good one there that he would like to get on the show. So, Frank Gore.
Yeah, that would be a good shout, because obviously he actually works for the 49ers now.
Bowman.
So that would be a good shout.
Nathaniel, another one for Frank Gore. And Red Jet Shell. We're still the best, whether Patrick joins or not. To be fair, Shell, he liked both of my tweets this morning, and I was giddy enough over him liking my tweets about his card. So I got him on the show. But go on, Lee. Sorry, I interrupted there, buddy.
So what I was going to say is I think John Taylor would be a good shout. Obviously, because I've already met him and I know what he's like. And he was so enthusiastic to tell us about his career and some of the things that they got up to, not just on the field, but also off the field. He brought this almost childish giddiness about him. I think John Taylor would come across quite well. And he's got one of our flags already. And both John Taylor and Eric Wright are owners of a 49er Faithful UK flag, which they received from me back in 2022. So I think those two would be good. Again, Eric Wright, he had some interesting things to say about his time playing with Ronnie Lott, because he was playing with the likes of Ronnie Lott, Hall of Famer. It made him want to be better in every single practice, because he would turn up, look around the field, the practice field, and think, I need to really up my game because of these guys that are on the field with us. So he would be interesting as well. I don't have any contacts for them, by the way. I'm just wondering, I'm just kind of spitballing here, who would be an interesting guest to have on. Roger Craig. Now we do have a contact there. We do have a contact there.
By Aaron, 49ers First Takes. So he's joined us. Aaron, we won't be staying live for too much longer. I'm hoping to collaborate with Aaron again, and I'm sure he would love for you to join as well, Lee, because I really enjoyed when me and you went on. Seems like ages ago since we went on Aaron's show.
It does, but I'm sticking by my 12-5 record.
Yeah, I would like to get Aaron on the 49er Faithful UK Live. So as we said, Aaron, we're trying to reintroduce the Wednesday as a topic-based show alongside the two podcasts. But Lee, I think we've digressed for long enough. We've gone for 90 minutes.
We have.
Unfortunately, people, I couldn't bring Patrick Willis to the 49er Faithful UK Live. We will obviously send a message to Patrick and Jordan and say, obviously, we've promoted the card. We would love for them to come on. But Lee, thank you for joining me, buddy. I've had a blast, as always. Tonight, all I was going to say to finish off was Patrick Willis, Hall of Famer, always welcome on the 49er Faithful UK Live. Have you any final thoughts, Lee, before I press play on the video?
Oh, he's a legend. He always was a legend before he became an official legend and Hall of Famer. Patrick, I wish he was still on that field, buddy.
Yeah, 100%. We will drop the link for the cards, as I said at the start of the show, for those guys who are wanting our thoughts on the 53-man roster. Fear not, the Awesome Foursome will be recording that pod tomorrow night. We will be back at 8 p.m. British UK time next week. Turkey Bowl, USA, Brian Davies. So keep those notifications switched on. Do drop us a like, a follow on all platforms of social media. Thank you for watching, everybody. Whilst we waffled on, hoping our hero would join.
See how shocked Paul was there?
That's because she's thinking,
well
you
done, Tracy.
told me.
Yeah.
It is a school holiday.
It's not my fault, Tracy. Don't blame me.
It's not Lee Gowland's fault. Andrew will be saying the same message. But you've thrown me off now, because I was going to say, as always, I just want to thank everyone for watching. I've done the like and subscribe. But until next time, Faithful, all that is left for me to say is stay safe. Go Niners.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in our heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, Deep Clark, Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99.